Hey, everybody. It is Jim Johnson here, your host on Contractor Radio, the show designed for contractors so that they can get control of their business, so they can grow their business and achieve some personal and financial freedom that they wanted when they started their business. Our goal here is to help people be better so they can have better businesses and lead better lives. And I'm super pumped today because I have a guest with me that I've gotten to know here for the last few years. It means a lot to me. He is one of the hardest working guys that I've met. He has an amazing company, and he's going to tell you more about that here this morning. But we're working on this series over the summertime of what contractors go through, the life of a contractor. And I want this guy to share a story because I think it's so valuable to you. I think it's going to bring you some insight into starting up your business, what growth may look like in your business, some of the obstacles and challenges you may face in your business. This is going to be one of those shows you don't want to miss. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our guest. He is very analytical about what he does. He's a super smart guy. He really pays attention to the details that allow him to facilitate a situation that benefits his employees just as much as it benefits him. Hey, Josh, welcome to the show. Josh Swisher from North Face Construction. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jim. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on, man. It really is. I've been working to put together what I call the best of the best, really. It's guys that have worked hard over the years to build something they can be proud of. And we've gotten to be a little part of your journey, but you've done so much just on your own and being the guy that you are. Tell us a little bit about North Face and yourself and how you got to where you are.
Okay, so I'll do the brief synopsis. I've told the story a few times and it gets a little entertaining. But so I started roofing when I was 15 years old, 16 years ago. So that tells you my age. I started working for my neighbor before I had a driver's license. So I would flip him shingles, drag tarps, everything. At that time, we were in the recession and it was really starting to hit. So by the time I graduated high school in 2009, his business wasn't really doing well. So my initial plan had been to manage his business and kind of grow up and help him build it. But I ended up going to college instead because there wasn't any work. And at the time, I didn't really know much else to make money. So I would do Craigslist ads for roof repairs and go patch a shingle for $50 and stuff while I was going to school. So on January 10th, 2010, I took an intro to business class and I learned what an LLC was. And that was the day I started North Face Construction. So we started 13 years ago.
Like to put your own LLC together?
No, I just learned what an LLC was. And I'm like, if this is what I need. I've been making cash all these years. I had no proof of income and I wanted to buy a truck to impress girls. That's what you do when you're 18. So that was my whole reason. But I'd started the LLC and then I was doing side gigs and still just like on the side, snow plowing, snow blowing of driveways with my parents' snow blower and their RAV4 pulling the trailer around. And just kind of, it wasn't really serious. But then in 2013, I got my builder's license while I was still attending college for my business degree in St. Cloud. And I contracted one job and then it was another one, and referrals, and everyone knew I was doing roofing. All my friends, social media, I was always posting about it. So it just kind of grew from there. And then the storm of 2017 hit. If you're a Minnesota person, the infamous storm. And then it was just like, hold on. And like, here we go. And that's when things really turned into a business from that point forward.
So that's super interesting. I think a lot of people probably start the way you did, not necessarily going to college and earning side money, although I think that happens quite a bit too. But it's like, I have this skill set. I'm going to do some side jobs, and then they become full jobs, and then that becomes another full job because I got a referral and I did good work. And I think a lot of businesses kind of have that type of scaling process to them where they build from referrals, good work, customer experience, and things like that. They may or may not be the low price leader because they don't have a lot of overhead and those type of things. Were you any of that?
Oh, I had no overhead. So I was living with my parents. I didn't have a car payment. I didn't have a phone payment. My only bill to be a licensed contractor was my yearly insurance premium and keeping the license paid every other year.
You could win a few deals.
Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew is how much I wanted to make per square as a subcontractor when I was installing, which at the time I was getting paid like 50 a square. And then I added on maybe another 50 a square. So I was getting 100 a square on top of my cost.
So you were a subcontractor to somebody else, the actual contractor?
Yeah.
Or so like subcontracting to the homeowner and residential clients?
I was subbing for other roofers, like, and my friends. So like my old boss and his brother both own roofing companies. So when I started my LLC, I would funnel my subcontract work. I was part of a crew, and I would count my bundles every day, and I had my little helper that I paid cash. And just, yeah.
How valuable was that to you to know it from that side? Like to actually be a subcontractor?
Pivotal.
How did that help you?
Pivotal, because I know how to do everything hands-on, and I knew how to lay down lots of squares fast and make money doing it. And I just kind of knew the ground up from the business and the efficiencies. I knew the material I needed. I knew like crews. I knew guys that could go and do the work. So we're just kind of boots on the ground. We could get things done.
I think that's an invaluable thing to have. Most of us that start a business doing contracting or whatever may not have that actual hands-on experience. The guys that I talk to that have more of that can talk in a different way to the homeowner than somebody just becoming a salesperson or a business owner. Did you find that to be valuable when you're talking to homeowners?
Yeah, because my first few sales, I'd say, I'm the guy, I'm a young man, I'm starting my business, I'm learning. I really appreciate you giving me the chance, but I'll be the guy out here working, me and my helper. And, I can promise you that you're going to get a good job. So it was just really endearing. The owner always sells at a high closing rate, but then it also helps when you say, I'm actually going to be the person out here every day. I'm going to be here at 7 a.m. and I'm going to stay until it's dark or after and get the job done.
Okay, so I got a couple of questions because you said something early on too, that you were posting this stuff on Facebook. You're like, hey, you're posting your jobs and the work you were doing. How did that help?
People just knew. It was just branding. I look back like it was just branding, like Josh is a roofer.
Yeah, everybody like Josh the roof guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they call me, my friends be like, hey, my dad is missing a shingle on his roof. Can you help us? I'm like, yeah, I'll come over, a couple $100. Yeah, I'll help you out. And then it's just compounds. So like my network knew what I did. A lot of people don't know what you do. Like, talk about it. It's interesting to people
all the time. Like I get asked for like to be a friend on Facebook, right? Like somebody will do a friend request with me, and I'm pretty diligent about who I let into my world. First things first, I'm always going to look negative or positive. You're a positive person, yeah, I'll keep looking. If you're negative, you're out immediately. And then I go to look, what do they do, right? Like I don't know. Do you do this whenever people friend request you? Like, do you look at like, what do they do?
I do a brief overview because especially in our industry, most of the time they're trying to sell you something if I see a certain friends group. So most of the time I'll just let those sit in queue.
Yeah, no wonder I have such a hard time getting people to go, yeah, I'll be your friend. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I just DMing and trying to sell me on stuff I don't need.
But I'll go, okay, so they're positive. They don't seem nefarious or anything. I'll go ahead and let them. And so I'll hit the friend accept button, and I'll immediately get like a message, a DM. Hey, I've been following you, watching your stuff. I'm a roofer, and I'm like, how does anybody know you're a roofer? It's not anywhere on any.
Yeah, you can tell.
I couldn't see it on any of their pictures. There was no like name of their company or anything. Like that's like step one. That should be on everything and anything that you do, because that network is super valuable to you, and you start building your brand from day one. What now? Has it always been North Face?
Actually, when I first filed the LLC, it was not, and I changed it like 9 months later. Yeah, it was literally JC Swisher LLC. I didn't care about the name.
When you start.
Yeah.
And what made you do the name change? Why that?
I just wanted, I thought about it. I'm like, well, I don't really want my name on the business necessarily. I just felt like I would like to build a brand outside of just me that people can subscribe to a little bit. I don't know. It wasn't much thought going through my head when I was 18 years old. I just did it.
Trucking girls.
Yep.
Yeah, I want a real company that doesn't have my name on it. It's super funny. So those first few years, you're 18 years old. You decide, hey, I'm going to be North Face. You were subcontracting other people. When did it switch to like being your own thing?
In 2013, when I got my license and I got hired for one job and for an insurance claim. And then that was just one. That was the only one I did that year. And then the next year was like 3 more. And then it was a few more. And it's just like kind of organically grew into that. And then I knew I had it kind of figured out by the time 2017 came around that that's what I was doing. I didn't always, at one point I wanted to be a customer modeler. I wanted to do like additions and like grandiose things. And I did a $250,000 addition and I made 20 grand. And between like the lead to like finish, it took like 1.5 years. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. Because I didn't have
to ask you, like, why did you go and stick with roofing then?
Yeah, right. Well, I learned what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be inside people's houses. It changes the whole dynamic of contracting when you're interrupting their day-to-day life with their kitchen remodel and stuff like that. Because when I did that addition, it was kitchen, everything, master, everything. So it was a good experience and great people. It went well, but I didn't make any money, and I put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours into it. So.
Yeah, that was a bit of a wake-up call, I would imagine. So then you go, I'm a roofer, right? Is that what you decided to be, or is it something more than that?
Well, it's roofing, siding, windows, and gutters. So exterior of a home, we keep the water out of the home above grade.
So exterior envelope approach.
Yes.
You don't have to be in the house or anything like that.
No.
So you're in one of those areas of the country where they get storms, and in 2017, you guys got one heck of a hailstorm. And so what were you doing in revenue like 2016, and then how did that change for 2017?
That's a great question. So I'll give you a little backstory. So in 2010, I actually still have my first on paper income statement in a frame in my office, and I made $6,000 in profit my first year in business. And
did you pay yourself though? Like you didn't live off of $6,000, did you?
Pretty much. I lived at my parents' house.
Oh yeah, you were living at your parents' house.
Yeah, I lived at my parents' house. I didn't have to buy food. I didn't have any bills, and then there was probably some cash on the side that wasn't deposited in there in the bank account. But so that year I did 18,000 revenue. The next year I did 24. The next year from there it was like 60 something. The next year from there it was 120, and then it was 240.
I can move out of my parents' house now.
Well, that's what happened. Is I was going to college at St. Cloud State for my entrepreneurship degree, and when I went to graduate, I looked at the last year and I just qualified for a home with my prospective wife that we were going to get married, and she was pretty much on minimum wage, college poor graduate. I made 30 grand while I was in school part-time, and we bought a house together. Barely bought a house together, barely. And I just remember graduating up, just like, well, if I'd made this money part-time while working my butt off, I can either go to Target Corporation or United Health, and I can be a business analyst for a comfortable salary and benefits, but then I'm not really in control. And I just wanted to kind of take that leap, because what's the worst going to happen? What's the worst going to happen? It's all paper and numbers, and you're not going to lose your family. So I kind of took that leap of faith at that time to continue things. So then we did 240,000 revenue. And then 2016, I did 600,000 in revenue. And that was when I did that addition. That's when my wife quit her job and she joined the company full time. And then she went back to school for her master's in business during that time. And then in 2017, we hit 1.1 million when the storm hit. And then after that, and I can keep going if you want, but
no,
save some of that for later.
Like that's such a, it's a steady pace of growth. It's not like, because a lot of guys would make this mistake. This storm happens. I bet you had opportunity to do way more than that if you wanted to. Like,
or if I knew how to do it.
Yeah, like, but you didn't have the people, you didn't have the resources, and so you kept it at a manageable number and pretty controlled growth. Has that been your MO for the whole time?
Controlled chaos. I'd call it controlled chaos.
For those of you listening on the podcast, Josh just went, ha. No, that hasn't always been
controlled chaos. It's controlled chaos, I'd say. I have big goals, and it gets challenging sometimes. It's overwhelming sometimes at the pace I try to push things.
Yeah, and everybody's goals are like different too. For somebody, for one person, it might be, okay, I'm going to go from 600,000 to 1.1 million. And that's like this big, huge push. And then you got this other guy's like at 500,000, we're going to do 5 million, right? So like absolute utter chaos at that point. What allowed you to go from 600,000 to 1.1 and not be too crazy? Or were you?
It was. So well, first off, I found a sales guy, and I don't remember. It was like on one of these forums in 2017. Cody Bates, if he's listening, he's an amazing person. He just started his roofing company with some partners down in Florida this year, and they're killing it. Amazing. But he was working in Florida, but he was a Wisconsin guy, and he DM'd me and said, "Hey, I saw that you had a storm up there," and he's like, "I'll come and work. It's the off season in Florida." And I'm like, "I need the help. Come up here." So he taught me how to like supplement. I didn't know what that was. He taught me that. And then I hired my first full-time employee that fall, Derek, who he was my first real employee on the payroll.
What did he do?
He did production. I handed off the production because I knew I could keep selling. I could train him to do the production.
Those are pretty smart moves. First off, you get kind of lucky, right? Like a sales guy that knows what he's doing gets a hold of you. And then your first real hire, though, is a production manager. You didn't hire another salesperson. Why'd you hire a production manager instead of a salesperson?
I just knew how much time I was spending running the jobs. I mean, I remember one day I had 10 roofs going in one day, and I was managing them all myself. But when they're within like 4 square miles in Blaine, that's not that hard. But I just knew I needed to hand it off that stuff because it was taking up so much time. I was missing out on opportunities to sell because I couldn't get to places fast enough for people to, because there's such a lack of people. Everyone needed the work done. So it's just the speed to get it done was the key to making the money. So
I find it interesting that you gravitated towards the sales side of it. Sounds like you had some skill at that. Versus the production side of it. Because that's kind of, you can go one way or the other. One guy can say, hey, I'm going to run production and hire a bunch of sales guys. Or the other way around, say, hey, if I hire a production guy, I can go sell more. Especially with your background, like knowing how to install and do the work and all those type of things. Why that particular choice?
I don't really know off the cuff necessarily, besides I always liked sales and I like dealing with people and driving the revenue a little bit, and I knew he could fulfill on the promises. So I wanted to grow. I wanted to grow, and I wanted to hand off things that would stop the growth. In regards to, in my mindset at that time, I wanted to drive revenue and push it forward, because then I hired my first salesperson that following spring. I hired Derek October of 2017. I hired my first salesperson in March of 2018.
I really hate interrupting these videos, but I've got some important information for you. If you haven't tried out Atlas Shingles, you should, because they put you first as a contractor. They want to give you a competitive advantage out in the field so that you can win more sales and be more profitable. Check out Atlas in your local area, find your local rep, get hooked up with them today, and start making more money tomorrow. So You actually said this earlier. You said that you started selling, and that's how the business started growing. It was you selling, and so I think that might have had something to do with it. Where you said the owner there's nobody that's more qualified to sell your business than the owner. You said something along those lines.
Mhm.
And so I want to call attention to that for the listeners. Like, that's reality. That's the perfect point. Really, probably why you hired the production guy, knowing that hiring sales guys coin flip if it drives revenue or not. But if you're selling, you have no doubt in your mind that you're going to be able to drive the revenue that you need. How did it feel to be responsible for these? Now you got three people. You got this kind of mercenary guy, you've got a production manager, and then you have a salesperson. Now you got a little responsibility. How'd that feel?
Well, Cody, it was all a short-term thing anyway. So that fall, he went right back down to Florida, and I took things back over. So it was just Derek and I, and then I had a salesperson, and it was really nervous. I remember a good friend of mine who has a landscaping company. He told me, it's like, the first hire is the hardest. Everyone after that is easy from a cash flow and your mindset standpoint, right? The responsibility definitely changes when like, especially Derek, our wives went to college together. They ran cross country together. And like, these are people that are really close to us that now they're taking a leap of faith. He actually lived in Wisconsin and would drive to Minneapolis and work Monday through Friday, stay at his sister-in-law's house on the couch, and then drive home 3 hours to Wisconsin on the weekends to see his wife.
So listeners are going to hate this. Where in Wisconsin did he live?
I don't remember.
Okay.
No, Toma, Wisconsin.
Oh, wow. That is a long ways away. Because so funny story. I lived in Wisconsin, halfway between River Falls and Menominee, if you know where Spring Valley is.
Oh, yeah.
Which is about 26 miles to make it to the border. Yeah. And then I would drive to Eden Prairie. So that's a good ways on the, what is that? That's the southwest side of the cities. So it's about an hour and 15-minute drive one way. And I would do that every day, and then out.
Yeah, he ended up doing that. He moved to Menominee then like a year later, and then ended up doing that drive every day to and fro.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. Pretty committed of him.
Yes.
But so you now have these responsibilities. What did that do to your mentality as the owner?
I wanted to take care of them, and that's one thing that I started understanding by a lot of the industry is a lot of people are 1099, were at least at that time. There's a transition now, but a lot of people 1099 independent, and there wasn't really a cultural kind of integration and formed culture. So I kind of wanted to I just wanted to care for them and try to get them benefits and so I could actually care for these people I really cared about, in a way that another company out there would do, like Medtronic or something like that. I wanted to get them benefits. I wanted to get them retirement options, all those things. I wanted to provide revenue so that I wouldn't have to tell them one day that it's over,
That's pretty awesome. The idea that you care enough, the picture you have in your mind. A lot of guys don't know who Medtronic is, but it's one of the biggest medical device manufacturers in the world. And you're picturing yourself as that, right? I want to picture myself as a business like that, so I can provide for the people that work for me. So has it always been employees from that perspective? Yes.
I've briefly had someone start as a 1099 for 4 weeks, and then they switched to W-2. So everyone, and that's the thing is I joined the UASRC at that time, which is now dissolved, but the United Association of Storm Restoration Contractors, and there's a number of founding members in the Twin Cities of that. And I ended up meeting Jacob Sachs, and he introduced me to a number of people, and I was this close to going to the 1099 whole model and profit split and all that jazz. And the number of people and mentors in that group were don't do it. You'll have to switch over later and start with the W-2. So we've always been W-2 employees on sales and everything.
Fun fact about UASRC?
Yeah.
Do you know who the founding members were?
I know who the founding members are. Yeah.
Okay. That all happened in a hotel room at an IRE in Orlando. Mm-hmm. We all started talking about that. There's 5 of us sitting there, and yeah, that's how it all started. It's kind of unfortunate that it's dissolved at this point. I think it had a really good idea
You did.
behind it. I hope at some point there is something like that again in the future, where there's a resource place for storm restoration contractors to do it right. That's pretty cool. The Catalyst Group kind of feels a bit of that. So 2017 happens. We grow. We start to hire some people. Got a production manager. We've got a salesperson in 2018. What happened in 2018?
We went from 1.1 in 2017. We did 2.5 in 2018. So we doubled.
That's some pretty serious growth.
Yeah.
What were the big challenges there?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It's all trauma. Trying to like resurrect trauma. No, it was a wonderful time. The challenges there were like standardization of like results and like the approach. We were very like, first salesperson, I didn't have a sales process. I didn't have anything. It was just us being endearing and being us. You know what I mean? There's no processes really. And it's just like every little challenge you ran into, you're like, well, okay, we should do it this way. And maybe make a checklist here or this or that, or next thing you know, you have like these little tools and resources that you're using to kind of facilitate getting it to the next volume level.
Yeah, that's a key point, because somewhere around that $1 million to $2 million mark, those decisions have to start being made. Like up until then, we can kind of wing it a little bit, shoot from the hip. And it's going to vary depending upon the type of trade that you do. So roofing might be around that $1 million to $2 million, where something that's a smaller ticket item might be between 500,000 and $1 million. That we're starting to get people in place. We want those people to all do it the same way. We want to start making this thing repeatable. What were your first indications of that?
I just knew that at times things were like how I wanted things done, like how I did it. I wanted that done every time. I wanted the customer to have the exact same experience every single time, no matter who they dealt with in the company. So I just knew I knew I wanted that, and I didn't really know how to do it. And that was kind of the tipping point on that, I think.
That's a very good way of putting it. So 2018 goes well, sounds like. So now we're rolling into 2019. Mm-hmm. Storm stuff still going strong? Like you got more storms to work and all that good stuff?
If I remember correctly, there's a few. There's leftover stuff a little bit. So 2018, we did, that was 2.5. And then 2019, we did 3 million.
So what were you doing marketing wise? Like, were you knocking doors like everybody else, or were you doing something different?
Less than probably 2% of our revenue in our whole lifetime has been knocking doors.
So what do we do? How do we do that? Because I think that's kind of the MO for storm restoration, right? Like go knock a bunch of doors and get a bunch of business.
Yeah, and I was always too scared to do it, so I never did. So I had to figure out other ways to get leads. So kind of what happened is referral based. So from then till now, I can look in our database, and 30% of our revenue in our whole lifetime has been from referrals. So doing a good job.
That's well done.
Yeah, but also I always had a knack for marketing, and I had a friend. She was the social media manager at an agency downtown, and she had a guy. I needed a website, and I was in college at this time, and I knew I needed a website, and I was like, Morgan, you know all this stuff. Do you know anyone who can build me a website? And she's like, well, I do have a guy. He could do it on the side. His name is Tim. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I got to meet Tim Brown, and he was working full time at. This
was Tim Brown before he's Tim Brown.
Yeah. He didn't know anything about roofing.
The OG Tim Brown.
Yeah. So I met Tim, and he presented me with his website, which was like 3-4 times the price of someone else. And he sold me on the value of like what could happen. And we've been working together quite well ever since. So like that really planted the seed, because I always knew I wanted to have like a reoccurring sustainable business on like my revenue. And I just kind of knew from SEO with some friends who had like SEO companies and stuff like that, that was a very important thing to be planting the seed now. Because everyone I talked to said the roofing industry, they're like, it's such a low hanging fruit. we don't know why all you roofers don't invest in this. It's so stupid. None of you like, so I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I've been working with Tim for, oh gosh, 8-9 years now, with the SEO. So that planted the seed. So like we were just having organic, and it just kept growing. And I was blogging too in my free time. I would write like terrible blogs. And just to get,
welcome to my world.
yeah, well, like, yeah. And then it just kind of, that was kind of the baseline. And we didn't actually start spending money on Google until 2020. So
wow. So from 2013 till 2020, so 7 years, 8 years, you didn't spend any money.
Google Local Services we did in 2019, the GLS. Okay. We were like one of the first people on that in the Twin Cities. But yeah, I didn't do any Google AdWords until 2000.
Now, I heard this thing that SEO is dead. Like I actually saw an ad on Facebook that said SEO is dead. I went, okay, it's on Facebook. So that's thing number one is like, okay, they're about Facebook. But do you still see results from SEO? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Staying the same?
Just continually getting better, because we're so far invested into this for years and years and years. Not financially, I'm just like time and effort put behind it. The financials is a huge ROI, because once it's there, it's there. It's just compounding. And as long as you're adjusting it to Google's algorithm and you're continually feeding, making yourself valuable, you're gonna do well. And we get tons of website submissions like daily. So it's not, I mean, there's different like feeding methods there now with other diversified marketing efforts, but the website really is the hub of things online that you need. It's almost like a pay to play. I could see why someone would say that line, the SEO is dead, just because it's a necessity. You need to have that, and you need to have a good website. Otherwise, you're not even in the game.
Yeah. And if somebody was starting today, would you give them that advice? Like, hey, get the website going and do that now?
Yes and no. I think that it's diversified effort. I think that depending on the person, you can make your money work for you real quick if you put it in other methods. So I think it diversified. Well, it's just like Google Ads, if you have that figured out, or like even just free stuff, Facebook, social media. You don't need to run ads to make money on social media. It's a low-hanging fruit. You're free. Your network. Just even like networking is the way to do it. Like I joined a networking group last year, actually. So I'm like out there networking and doing that, and that's a huge ROI as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just read a book here recently. I'll give it to you if you haven't read it before. It's called The Power of Who. Have you ever read that?
No, I haven't.
So many of us, I think, are about building this really wide network. Like I want to know everybody and anybody, and that way they all know me, type of thing. This book's concept isn't about that. It's about having a tight network and deep relationship with each one. And do you find that, like, as you're now building out your network and stuff like that, you've built relationships with certain ones and they seem to be more valuable than just the everybody that we know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There are people that know your customer before you. So who are those people? And aligning yourself and building deep relationships. So like the whole creed of like BNI, Business Networking International, I avoided it like the plague forever. I thought it was like whatever, but like the creed is like your visibility equals credibility, which equals revenue. And like your referral is your reputation. So you got to think about that as well, as who are the people that know your customer before you and what really matters to them. Well, they want their reputation valued by whoever they refer it to. So like if I refer someone to Jim Johnson, it's a reflection on me, your performance, right? So if you keep that in mind, on your customers, like who are those people that really are, and who increases your closing rate. So like there are certain individuals in the market that if you line yourself and get deep relationships where you are really like making them look like rock stars, you're making them look like the champion, you're going to keep getting fed.
That's really good. Like you said something there that I don't want the listeners or viewers to miss. this idea that your network knows your customer before you do. And so they're your little broadcast voices out there.
Yep.
They're the ones that, like, when somebody says the word roof and they go, "Oh, Josh," that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yep.
Or North Face, first thing that comes to mind.
Yep.
And I think we don't put enough effort into that sometimes, especially in the storm world. And I'm going to come back to that a little bit. So 2017, a big storms. But there hasn't really been another big storm until 2022, right? Like there's been little storms here and there.
There's been little pocket storms. Like we had a good one in 2019 in Elk River, our hometown, which that kind of launched us to the next phase. And there's...
But even then, so that's 2019. So 2020, 2021. So that's 2 years of not a whole lot going on, probably picking up some work that hadn't been completed, which is what a lot of folks aren't able to do. They're not able to pick up those ones that kind of slip through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that the reason that you're doing that is because of the heavy investment you made on the digital side. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Like we're getting things that not everyone else is looking at, and we're not afraid of holding on to the customer's hands for a year and a half that it takes to get something pushed through, But yeah, the technology, the integration of the marketing, definitely you're in a place where you're visible to people who are seeking a solution actively, and if you're the one that's right there to be found, your credibility and your closing rate and your ability to close that is just going to go up higher. It's like I said earlier, like my whole model has always been like, I want a sustainable revenue stream. We've never really targeted storm, which is interesting. We've always targeted, our inbound has always been 60 to 70% retail. And then our revenue has always been 60 to 70% insurance. So it flips. And we never really have chased the storms either.
Explain that. So our lead intake is 60 to 70% retail, but our work is 60 to 70% storm work. What's that flip? How's that happening?
Well, it happens because of where you're getting that retail work in places that have damage, or they don't know they have damage. So like we'll go out to, I don't care the size of the job. You call us for one little leak. Like our job is to give the customer an amazing experience. We have something at the company called the customer for life mentality. And that means like, even if I can't provide a solution to your problem, maybe it's a plumbing leak, I'm going to make you feel so special and happy with the experience that you had meeting me, that then you're going to be a customer for life and an evangelist of the North Face brand for me. But then also like going out to a gutter lead, you might go to a gutter lead and it's there's literally a job in Elk River, our hometown. We went out to a gutter lead and it was like 50 feet of seamless gutters. How many roofers are going to come and bid that? Well, we did, and it turned in an $80,000 claim.
Wow. And so where did you get this concept that these folks that might just be a gutter job or a repair job or something like that could be an evangelist for you?
I think everyone can, if you make them feel good about the experience and you make them feel special and cared about.
I think so many people don't approach it that way. They go, crap, man, I got a repair lead.
We love it.
Yeah.
I have a text thread that all my salespeople are on right now, and they're like, today there was a text like someone went out and sold a $2,000 window leak repair, and they're sharing the contract and all, like, it's not about the size, you guys, it's about serving them. Like, and that's the culture they have. We are here to really take care of the customer and make them like happy, because social proof, it comes around. Like if what you do to others will come around, you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
100% agree with that. So we'll go back to 2018 again. We had 2 people working for us. It's now 2020.
It was more than 2 at that time.
Oh,
so I had actually I had 3 salespeople at the time.
Manager,
and then production manager, and then I had a supplementer. That was short. That was like a short-lived time. Then I outsourced that. So 2018, we had I think about 6-7 team members, something like that.
So where are we at today? It's 2023.
In regards to team members or revenue?
Yeah, how many team members?
I think right now we're at about 28 full-time people.
20. Wow. Did you say 20 or 28?
28.
28. Okay. Wow. And what kind of revenue are we looking at?
Well, last year we did 10.5. This year we're going to do 12 million residential.
And we're on track for it. Like if you're looking at your numbers and everything, you're on track.
On track, if you take into the fact about an extra 4 weeks of winter that pushed us out a little bit. So
that's
you take a little bit of a mulligan there, a little bit of a mulligan on that one. But no, that's where we're at.
Well, it's pretty funny though. Like in those northern climates, that'll happen, right? Like you have winter that goes longer, and you're like, oh crap, that's going to throw up all my numbers. Well, the work still needs to get done. It's just going to all happen very fast. It's going to be like big flow. If I understand weather correct, I was just up in Minnesota not too long ago. It seems to have broken, and so are we hard at work now?
Oh yeah. Right. It's like you said, like you got to go. You got to be ready. That's the thing, like especially in these markets. It's been a lesson I really learned in the last year or so is the speed. Like you need to be agile and be able to produce and move fast.
Oh, here I am interrupting you again, but this is an important message you do not want to miss because it's about AI. AI in sales. Could you imagine having every sales call recorded, analyzed, tell you what's winning, share it with everybody else so they can start winning? Everybody's closing percentages go through the roof. If you haven't heard of Rilla Voice, you need to. Go check out Rilla today in the comments below. Josh, this has been a really good podcast. I think that they kind of seen like this growth, some of the things you did along the way. You're talking to a guy that's either just starting up or he's stuck. Like he's stuck as that small guy. Like he's trying to figure out what that next step is. What are the 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you'd give somebody if they came to you and said, hey, I'm looking for a mentor?
Oh, I'm looking for a mentor. Well, you need to get out there. You need to like get out of your comfort zone and go places where those people might be.
Well, they're asking you. You're the mentor. They're going, hey, what are the first 2 or 3 things I need to do?
Need to know your numbers. And you need to have a budget. That's a hard lesson to learn, and a lot of roofers avoid the numbers and avoid the budget. But when you know your numbers and you know the budget, you can make magic happen really in a strategic way. So like really understanding your costs, understanding what your choke points are to getting your cash and getting that stuff pushed through, that your ability to retain and deploy cash is like the ultimate turbocharge on your business.
Explain that a little bit. What do you mean by retain and employ cash?
So, your ability to capital it really dictates your speed to grow. So like hypothetically, if I wanted to grow to 20 million, if I know my numbers, I know my closing rate, and I retain my capital and I budget it properly, all I have to do is dump gasoline on the fire. So if you know your numbers and you're making sure that your capital is being managed properly, you can strategically grow exactly how you want.
100%. Okay. So that awesome piece of advice. Know your numbers, understand how capital fuels your growth. What else? I think just like what we talked about before, that I organically just kind of happenstance did is I like branded myself because I was so desperate for work. I've been so broke before, Jim. I've been so broke. Like, it's not even funny. Like, I had $15,000 at one point in medical bills, a broken ankle, and half of it was funded on a credit card. And I didn't know what the heck I was going to do to like make money. When you're desperate and I've left like fuel, like you figure it out real freaking quick. And you start posting really quickly. Like, hey, anybody figure it out real quick.
Yeah, like I need money. Who needs help with roofs? I do this. I'm talking like Snapchat stories, like the fun social media. I'd be on Snapchat on a roof, like what I'm doing, my day in the work. People just started seeing that I was doing this every day consistently. And I think I didn't even try to do it. I was just having fun while I was doing it.
You were doing it before Gary Vee said it was a thing.
I was doing it like anyone else was my age who wasn't doing it for business, just for fun. But I had just added what I was doing every day in my business into it.
That's pretty cool. So what would you say are the 2 or 3 pinnacle things that have helped you to grow to this 10 million shooting for 12 million?
You don't know all. I'm a lifelong learner, and I think having the mindset that you don't have it figured out, and having just being able to learn. You're not going to ever have things figured out. So always be looking for opportunities to improve and learn and challenge yourself. Could you repeat the question again? Sorry.
No, what are the 2, to grow a business to, $10, $12 million? That's not something that happens all the time. As a matter of fact, in our industry, less than 1% of the contractors achieve $10 million or more. So congratulations, you're in the top 1%.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you got to think about it. There's millions of contractors out there. 80% of them do less. They do less than 250,000. So it's their contracting business. They're on the crew. They're selling the jobs. They're watching them. And to go from that to 10, 12 million, there was probably 2 or 3 critical things that allowed you to do that. What do you think those were?
That's a good question, Jim. I think just it kind of going back to what I kind of rambled off on before is finding a mentor that's been there before and actually listening and deploying what they tell you, because most people, it's hard to get over your ego and ask for help when you really need it. I think that at that time, going to the USRC and just being so desperate for I need help. I want to learn. Someone help me, someone learn. And then also that was at that point, and I got introduced to a local mentor at that time. And then that person introduced me to you and Contractor Coach Pro. So honestly, you guys have been a part of that growth period, because I was luckily at the time when you guys brought on a number of these auxiliary people that are in their specialties. I was one of the forefront contractors, starting right at that time to implement those things. I wouldn't know my numbers if it wasn't for you. I wouldn't. Well, and then in regards to an employee handbook, I wouldn't know my numbers if it weren't for the Contractor Coach Pro team. I wouldn't really understand sales to the depth that I do without Chuck. So I was on the front end working with all of these people as you brought them on in their specialties, and working with obviously rockstar Nathan over there. So having a coach, that was a big pivotal point. The pivotal point that I'd say we're at right now, which is I'm in a learning phase right now. I'm learning to kind of be a better leader in a leadership role, and I'm trying to give myself the time and space to learn and practice the skills that my people need me to have, because the organization has grown so fast and with so many team members that it's been challenging. It's just outgrown some of my skills, and without being focused on those. So that's where I'm at in the challenge department.
Good advice to you. Go read everything you can. I mean, I'm serious. I don't know how much of a reader you are. Being the learner that you are, I assume that you do quite a bit of reading. John Maxwell, Jim Rohn, and Jim Collins.
21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Yeah,
just read that one.
They're one of the best, and it's actually something that we're about to put out. We're about to put out a leadership mastermind deal, because we've had so many contractors over the years that that's where they're kind of getting stuck, as that next step to really take that company to the next level. That's something that we're working on. Should be out hopefully by June is the game plan. So we want to help bring those growth-minded leaders together, so we can facilitate it and apply the skill, the tactics, and the tools and all those things to great leadership, but also let them work together as a peer group, and really grow their businesses, be innovative and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get that out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's the first time I've mentioned it. So it should be fun. Josh, you have been amazing on this. This is going to be a super valuable podcast to our listeners. I really appreciate you. It's an honor to have you on. It's an honor to call you friend. Fun hanging out with you. You and I got to go to a comedy show. That was a lot of fun.
We did. That was a blast.
I screwed up. Like the first time you invited me, I went, "Oh man, I'm busy getting this whole event ready. I'm going to send my people." And they got like Joe Rogan and
Ron White
and guys like that. I went with you. I didn't know any of those guys. You guys?
I didn't either. I knew a few, but
yeah, but it was a great time. I love hanging out with you. I love having
it was a blast.
A relationship with you and your team. We know so many of them now, and it's just been awesome, man. Thanks for trusting us, and thanks for being a friend.
Yeah, I'd right back at you, Jim. You and your whole team and the whole Contractor Coach Pro team is just amazing. So you built something that has influenced a lot of people, and I think you're well on your way to reaching your 1 million contractor goal.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna help. That's the other thing we're hard at work on right now is, 80% of contractors are under that 250 number. And to get coaching it's not cheap. I mean, it's an investment.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to build something that's going to allow for some facilitation there on the big things that they need, which is how to set a goal, how to generate leads, how to sell those leads at high value that they're worth, how to optimize referrals, and how to hire their first right person. Like that's all we're going to focus on in that group.
That's what they need at that size.
Yeah, you helped explain all that today. Like that was really great.
I'm glad I was able to help, and I hope that people find value in this. And
I have no doubt that they will. Josh, get out there and go help those Minnesota homeowners. You only got about 3 months to do that before it gets cold again.
Yeah, we're going.
All right. Hey, man, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
All right. Hey, guys, that was awesome. I don't think I've ever done a podcast like that before where we took like the journey with a contractor, this journey from the beginnings and just being a kid working for somebody else and then being a subcontractor, then becoming a contractor, then becoming a real business. And this growth has been steady every single year, well managed, well thought out, finding the right people, happening upon some of the right people at the right time and knowing when to do that. What a great story Josh has. I hope that you guys learned something from that, are able to implement some of what you learned from Josh. And thanks for listening. If you need help with your business, it's what we do here. We help contractors get some control over their business by being better leaders of processes, systems, HR, finance, sales, marketing, you name it. We cover the entire company holistically. And then the idea being that you can grow in the way that you want to. Some want to grow fast, some want to grow measured, some want to stay where they are, just be cleaner. Whatever that may be for you, that's what we're here to help you with, because what we're trying to achieve with you is to find some freedom to do the things you want to do with those you love, and when you want to and how you want to. So thanks for hanging out with us for this episode. I look forward to the next one on our summer of contractor stories, and it should be a lot of fun. We'll see you next week.